Good morning, everyone. My name is Robin Siegel, and I'd like to welcome you to our virtual trip to Morocco. Federation missions are like none other, filled with new friends, exciting locations, and a chance to visit with Jewish communities around the world. We look forward to being able to travel together in the future, but in the meantime, I'd like to thank Guild Travel and Active Travel for the chance to travel in a new way. Our tour today will be a little different. The pandemic often made even virtual travel challenging with lockdowns, curfews, and nations declaring states of emergency, like Morocco did on March 20th. For that reason, our Moroccan guides, Mr. Z and Mukhtar, grabbed the opportunities when they were available to visit and record some of the most important and beautiful parts of Morocco to ensure that we wouldn't miss out on the beauty of the Moroccan culture or the Moroccan Jewish community. So today's tour will integrate live experiences with our guides mixed with short recordings. All you have to do is sit back and relax. I will formally introduce our guides shortly. But first, I would like to thank our corporate sponsor, HJ Sims. The generosity of our corporate partners allow the Federation to host programs like this and others. I would like to welcome Jonathan Giroux from HJ Sims. Welcome and thank you. Before we get started on our tour, there are a few housekeeping notes to go over. Your microphone will be muted throughout the program. If you have a question for our guides, please type it in the chat box, and I will ask our guides these questions at the conclusion of the tour. For those of you a little less familiar with Zoom, you can adjust the way your screen appears. Our recommendation is to select Speaker View, which will highlight the person speaking. You will find this at the top of the Zoom screen. Before our flight takes off from Morocco, I'd like to mention that in response to the influx of new faces in our community, our Jewish Federation of South Palm Beach County launched a Newcomers Initiative. Co-chaired by newcomer Lisa Friedman Clark and longtime resident and Federation leader Nancy Geffen, we are helping newcomers navigate their new Jewish community and make it feel like family and old friends, to help them make connections and to learn what their new community has to offer. We offer friend-making opportunities for all demographics, from baby boomers and young couples to empty nesters and those who are single. Please share our info with anyone who is new, or let us know of anyone who may be new and wants to connect with us. I'd also like to take a moment to tell you a little bit about the Jewish Federation of South Palm Beach County. As you know, Federation takes care of our people from right down the street to across the world. Through the annual campaign, our Federation raises and allocates funds to its partner agencies to provide critical assistance to those in need. Today is not a fundraising event, but a gift of any size is very much needed and greatly appreciated. Now more than ever, our local and global Jewish community are depending on us. Here are just some of the ways that you can help your Jewish family, near and far, face unprecedented challenges in the face of COVID-19. You keep our frail elderly unable to safely go out, secure and comforted with full, nutritious meals at home. You are a lifeline for families facing income loss and overwhelming stress with emergency financial help and mental health services. You bring virtual joy, creativity, and learning to children and adults with developmental disabilities during long days in their homes. You bring new immigrants from around the world to safety from anti-Semitism, destitution, broken infrastructures, and the pandemic to a new life in Israel. You keep health and hope alive for our impoverished brothers and sisters with emergency and ongoing aid in worsening conditions across Europe, Asia, Africa, and Latin America. Please help us to continue meeting those needs and make your gift today. Together, we will thrive through these challenging times and build a more resilient future. Thank you. So now, through the magic of Zoom, I'd like to welcome you to Morocco and introduce our guides, Zuhair and Mukhtar. Zuhair, known locally as Mr. Z. Mr. Z is a government-appointed tour director, passionate about Morocco and its diverse culture. He is a veteran guide with years of experience accompanying tourists around the country, learning, sharing, exploring, and having fun. Mukhtar was born and bred in the city of Marrakesh, and it is a renowned national guide and expert in Moroccan Jewish heritage. Mukhtar holds a BA in English literature and is a teacher by trade. Mukhtar is a leader in his field and specializes in Jewish heritage and Jewish historical sites in Morocco. And now I'm delighted to welcome you to our tour of Morocco.
Hello, welcome to Morocco and welcome to Marrakesh. Hey, I didn't know it's already 2 o'clock time, isn't it? Lovely. So everywhere you go in Morocco, you will always be welcomed by a cup of tea. This is the common denominator between all the locals, whether you go to a very rich family or a small dwelling in the middle of nowhere, everyone will be receiving you with a cup of tea. So this is the national beverage now in Morocco. What you need to make a good cup of tea, first of all, is the teapot. Hey, the Moroccan teapot, the first one of this kind was made in Manchester by Moroccan Jewish craftsmen and Moroccan Muslim craftsmen who immigrated to Manchester, and in there they were making these teapots and sold them with the hallmark RW, which stands for Richard Wright. Then, of course, many glasses, small glasses with a heavy bottom all the time. And you will need the fresh mint. Spearmint is the one that we use most of the time. Then gunpowder tea. We do not produce tea in Morocco, it is imported. And we go through a lot of tea every year. Our government has secured the next 6 months of this commodity that is very admired in this country. So this is gunpowder. Then the most important ingredients that goes into our tea, it is sugar. And sugar comes as a sugar loaf, which weighs about 4 pounds. This is a commodity that we present whenever we're sad or happy. If there is a marriage next door, you take a couple of loaves of sugar to the newlywed couple and take it to them and present it to them and say, congratulations on your wedding. If there is a loss next door, you also take a couple of loaves of sugar and say, we're so sorry about the loss. Therefore, it's a sweetener, it's a passepartout for every occasion there is. So let us proceed on making the tea. So you put water to the boil. First thing is that you pour a little bit of water into the teapot. And that is used to warm the teapot. A little swirl, because the teapot is cold. So once you put the boiling water, that warms it up. Then it goes into one of the glasses. The next thing is the green tea that goes in. Depending on how strong you want your tea. For a teapot, for the Moroccan family, so about this size, that would serve about 10 to 12 people. So you will put about 10 grams of the gunpowder or the green tea. That's a couple of spoons. Go in. Then you pour a little bit of boiling water. About half a glass of boiling water. You leave it to infuse for just a few seconds without shaking the teapot. So while it is infusing, so basically you clear off really like the tea, anything else that's in front of you. You prepare the sugar as well. Then once it's done, you pour it into a glass. The next thing, you pour a little bit more boiling water onto the teapot, but this time you've got to give it a vigorous shake. This is the way to disturb all the dust that is on the tea leaves, because while drying, the tea in the drying process, the tea has gathered quite a lot of dust, and it is extremely bitter to the taste. This is a way of weakening the tea. And you pour it into a separate glass. And you look at the difference between the first one and the second one. All that bitterness, all that dust is in the second one. This one we don't use. And the first one, this is the essence of the tea. This is all the aroma, all the flavor of the tea. It goes back again into the teapot. You put half of the teapot of water, or boiling water. Then at this stage, you add the sugar. But a sugar loaf this size is quite difficult to cut on the same time. Now look at it. So, but what we do, we prepare it in advance, and this is what I did earlier. So we've cut it into smaller pieces. Moroccan, we have a very sweet tooth. The sweeter it is, the more welcoming that person is trying to make you feel. You put, for a teapot this size, for a Moroccan family, you would put about a couple of pieces about this size here. If you don't like it with sugar, of course, you just say, please no sugar. But most families, most of the time, will do 2 teapots, a small one with no sugar at all, and another one with sugar. Then the next thing is you add fresh mint. Fresh mint or spearmint that we have washed already. So you cut it into smaller branches in order to fit into the teapot. Then it goes in. And that is a very generous serving, really like a helping of the fresh mint. Then you top it up with boiling water. Then it goes on the stove in order to caramelize the sugar. You put it on the stove for about 10 seconds or so, just enough time for the leaves to start opening up and also for the sugar to dissolve. So you know that it's ready by the time the smoke's coming out of the spout. And the leaves, once they expand, once they are hydrated, they stay in because there is like a sieve inside the teapot. Okay? Then the next thing is that you pour the tea and the hand starts going high up. That helps for creating this beautiful foam and also a way of mixing all the ingredients. And that one goes back again into the teapot. You repeat this process a couple of times. And look at the color of the tea. It's almost like a golden color. Then I can't tell you, the smell of this peppermint is just wonderful. So you start helping your guests with the tea. You never fill the glass to the very top, only about half of the glass in order to encourage more helping. And once the conversation's dying out, so you offer your guests a little bit more tea. So the hand starts going up. And that creating that beautiful foam. We drink tea in Morocco 6 to 8 times a day. In fact, we do not even count the number of times that we drink the tea. And every time we have the tea, we serve it with little cakes, as you can see here. And as it is Ramadan, I won't be joining you in sharing the tea, but here you are, enjoy it. And as we say in Morocco, bis-siha, to your health. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Zaid, for making tea for our guests. Welcome, everybody. So now let's move to another experience of Morocco, the Jewish experience that dates back to more than 2,000 years. So the Jews, the first Jews fled from the Holy Land from the Romans and swarmed to the country where they merged with the local Berber inhabitants and started to be a major component of the Moroccan population. So they started to play a major role in the country, being tradesmen, the best middleman in trade, the best craftsman, or even sometimes advisors and counselors to several kings. And this is a tradition that our current king is still preserving by appointing a member of the Jewish community, Mr. Andri Azulai, as his counselor. So the history of Judaism in Morocco was also enriched by the Sephardic Jews that fled the persecution of Catholic Spain in the 15th and 16th century. And they added a lot to the way of life of Morocco, to its sophistication, to its cuisine, its costumes, and also traditions. And all this legacy of the Jews in general was recently rewarded in our last constitution in 2011, where the first article for the first time recognizes the Jewish legacy as a component in the general makeup of the Moroccan identity. So despite their decrease in number, the Jews of Morocco still stick to their roots, and they are very proud of their history and of their identity. So this is what we will see throughout the visit that we are going to do together to the Jewish quarter, where every corner always recalls these Jews. So this beautiful section of Marrakesh was restored recently thanks to the help of the king in person, who was involved in ordering the local authorities to start this series of restorations of the Jewish quarter that we commonly call here in Morocco the Mellah. At the same time, we will have the opportunity to meet and a certain number of the Jewish community, the last Jews in the Mellah, namely Mr. Ohayun and the family Haliwa, the last family that still lives in the Jewish quarter. And they will welcome you. Obviously, they don't speak English, but they will speak in Hebrew. Welcome for your visit and for your attention. So we are inside the Jewish quarter. This is the beginning of the Jewish quarter in this section that is mainly for the herb sellers and spice sellers. And we are in front of one of the most interesting parts of the Jewish quarter, the art of Mordechai Ben Attar. It was the rabbi that supervised the building of the Mellah and the distribution of the plots and houses inside the Mellah in the 16th century.
שלום, בוקר טוב. לי קוראים יצחק אוחיון. אני יהודי שגר ליד המלח. אני אחראי על הבית כנסת של המלח, על השיפוצים של בית העלמין. ברוכים הבאים למרוקו. אין לכם בעיה, אתם יכולים לבוא בביטחון מלא. מדינה יפה, היסטוריה של היהודים של 2000 שנה. ברוכים הבאים.
So in the Mellah, this is the house of the last Jewish family that still lives in the Mellah, the Haliwa family. Mr. Moshe has a store. His store is on the ground, and upstairs there is the house that goes back to the 18th century.
שלום ברכה, קוראים לי משה חליווה, זה החנות שלי של בדים, ואני גר למעלה, ואני כבר פה מ-62, וברוכים הבאים אצלנו במרוקו, אנחנו שמחים שתבואו אלינו, ותודה רבה.
We are inside the house of the Haliwa family. So we have the honor to present you Mrs. Titi Haliwa.
שלום, אני קוראים לי טיטי חליווה, אני גרה במרוקו ואני כל פעם יש לי קבוצות של תיירים שבאים אליי מאנגלית, מאמריקה, מישראל וכולם באים במרוקו, הם מבסוטים כשהם אצלי ואנחנו מחכים בעזרת השם שתלך הקורונה בעזרת השם, לא תהיה את המחלה וכולם יבואו אצלנו בעזרת השם ויבואו לראות את המרוקו, אין כמו מרוקו, יש דברים ממש דברים טובים לראות במרקש, יש פלי בהיה, יש דברים ג'מע אלפנה, יש הרבה מקומות לראות במרקש ואנחנו מחכים אותם בעזרת השם, יבואו בשלום וגם אנחנו מבסוטים עם השלום כשיש בישראל, במרוקו ויהיה רק טוב בעזרת השם ואנחנו מחכים לכם שתבואו אצלנו לאכול אצלנו את האוכל מרוקאי ותהיו מבסוטים אצלנו בעזרת השם.
So now we are in the heart of the Jewish quarter and we are going to visit
Sorry, you're muted. Sorry, Mukhtar, you're muted.
Okay. In the heart of the Jewish quarter, we are going to visit the Slat al-Asama synagogue, one of the oldest synagogues in the country. And for the last 5 centuries, the Jewish community has always did their best, especially during the last few years, to keep it open to services. So every morning there is a service on Saturday, and it is a thing that it is very hard to maintain during the last few years when the Jewish community is less than 100. So let's together visit this jewel of Jewish architecture and see this very interesting synagogue in the middle of the street of Talmud Torah. So let's. So we are inside the Slat al-Azama synagogue, the oldest synagogue in town that was built during the 16th century, mainly by the Jews that left Spain, the Sephardic Jews that were forced to leave Spain during the end of the 15th century and beginning of the 16th century. So that is how in the beginning, when they lived inside the Jewish quarter, they were not really accepted because of the differences in the traditions and customs between them and the other Jews that lived in Marrakesh that we refer to sometimes as the Berber Jews or the Tushavim. So there was a conflict between the Tushavim way of life and the Megorashim, which refers to the Sephardic Jews. So in the beginning, they were not accepted, and they built their own synagogues where they prayed alone, not with the other category of Jews. And that is how they called their synagogue, or the synagogue was called by the Tushabim as Salat al-Azama, which literally means in the Arabic language, the synagogue of the foreigners. While the Sephardic Jews used to refer to the Berber Jews as forasteros, strangers. So this is one of the most beautiful temples in the synagogue, which still has 7 Torahs, kosher Torahs, and there is the prayer every morning in this prayer, especially on Saturday. So this is one of the most interesting Talmud Torah schools in Morocco. During its peak, it used to have, according to a certain number of historians, up to 400 pupils studying in this school. So in the 1960s and 70s, due to the immigration, the number of the pupils decreased, and that is how the community decided to close it.
Well. Welcome back again to Marrakesh. Marrakesh was founded in the 11th century, more precisely in 1062, by a family known as the Almoravids. One of the most important districts in the heart of Marrakesh is the Medina, is what we refer to as the Medina, and we call it also the Old Town. There are different districts, some of them dating back to the 11th, 12th, 14th, 16th, and 19th century, as Marrakesh was a capital for various families in different times. And each of these districts enjoy certain elements that have got to be present in order to make the Muslim neighborhood. What we need, really, other than the Jewish district that is the Mallah, for every Muslim neighborhood, it has a hammam that is the equivalent of the Turkish bath. And that is a place where you can get cleaned, relaxed, enjoy views and news, and hear the latest gossip in the neighborhood. At least once a week, everyone, even if you have a bathtub at home or a shower at home, you still use the ritual of going to the public hammam against a small fee that you pay at the entrance. The hammams are more of a Roman invention that the Muslims have adopted. It's made out of the 3 rooms, the frigidarium, the tepidarium, and the caldarium. Then next to the hammam, there is a bakery. The bakery doesn't sell the bread. The bakery, you make your own dough at home, and you take it to the local baker to bake it for you, and also you pay a small fee. Then there is the furnace that heats the water for sometimes both the bakery as well as the hammam. There are also Quranic schools. I tell you, without a further ado, join me and I'll let you know a little bit more about it.
For the pleasure of all our senses, let us get lost inside the Medina. And that's the beauty of it. The hidden treasures, really, like Marrakesh doesn't show you everything from the outside. You've got to come deep, and I'm inviting you. Please join me. We're going to go around the tiny little alleyways and find out a great deal about this Medina. When we say Medina, we mean the old part of the town. So the beauty of the dwellings and the houses in the heart of the Medina is that there is absolutely no difference between the high-end and the low ones. So everyone shares the same bare wall from the outside. The social standing of the family living in the house is not noticed until you actually come inside. In every single neighborhood in Marrakesh, there are certain essential elements really that make the Muslim neighborhood. One of them is the hammam. There is a traditional hammam in every single neighborhood. So this is one of the oldest hammam which is still in use. And this is one that is shared by men and women, not at the same time. There's only 35 million Moroccans. If we were sharing it on the same time, there would be 350 million Moroccans. Thank God for that. So people really like socialize inside the hammam. When our mothers come to the hammam, they're there really for the rest of the afternoon in order to exchange views and news. Right, as I said, in every single neighborhood, there is a hammam, there is a madrasa, Quranic school for the little children, there is a bakery. Later on, we'll get a chance to see one of them, and there is also a furnace. The furnace used is to heat the water for the hammam. And there is a gentleman here who takes good care of this to keep the fire going all the time. He's got to keep feeding the fire all the time to keep the hot water. So the other thing really that we talked about earlier on is the tangia. The tangia is a special dish that is in Marrakesh. It's usually cooked by, prepared by men. The tangia consists of lamb or beef, preserved lemon, garlic, cumin, saffron, a drop of water. You seal it, then you bury it in the ashes. It's slow cooking, tenderizing the meat until it comes easily off the bone. It is a dish that is the speciality of the Marrakchi man. Why is that? Because it doesn't involve any washing up afterwards. Okay, we continue to please our senses. And here we are in the olive market. All these shops sell olives. Then something that we've inherited from our Jewish friends and Jewish community tend to be the preserved lemon. The preserved lemon that you can see over there. When the lemons are in season, we tend to put a little incision on the top of the lemon, a little bit of salt. Then we put it in an airtight container away from the direct sunlight for 3 to 4 months. Then it becomes like what you see there. And when you're cooking, rather than adding any salt, you just throw a piece of the lemon that adds a lot of extra flavor and gives it a good kick. Right, ladies, we'd love to invite you to get all the smells. It's really like a real aggression to all our senses. When we talked earlier on about the fresh mint. So this is really like where you get your mint on a daily basis. You get it fresh. And as a shopping tradition, our parents really like traditionally all the time buy the most expensive items first and they put them at the bottom of the shopping basket. Then as they are leaving the market, they get the fresh mint. And that's why I said that it is the common denominator between all the classes. Everyone gets the fresh mint on a daily basis. Enjoy your tea. Marrakesh is a shopping paradise for you ladies. There's a great family called Tazi in Marrakesh, well known, quite famous, and they've been doing the kaftans for many, many years. Mr. Tazi is one of the sons of this family. I always tell in the market of Marrakesh, thousands and thousands of tiny little shops. When you go through the little alleyways, we come and see a great gentleman who is here. He's been here for donkey's years. Oh my God, look what he's doing. He's the one who makes all these beautiful slippers, and that's what we're going to find out about. So we'll find the size and the color that is going to suit every single person. So Marrakesh is a shopping paradise for everyone.
So they will show you the nomad carpets from the high Atlas mountains. Then I will show you the ones from the anti-Atlas. They are completely different. It's knotted in the middle, woven behind, and embroidered on top of the weaving.
A spectacular view of the city of Marrakesh with all its mosques, its minarets, its hammams, old neighborhoods, huge riads, as we can see from the top here, with the beautiful colors all still present, that green, that peaceful color that tends to cover all the old mosques and the old schools.
Our cuisine is great. It's great because of all the cultural influences that we had. Our Jewish neighbors, Jewish friends, Jewish cousins have left us a great legacy. of course, we're going to share with you, after this long walk throughout the Medina, a lovely dish that we still make today in Morocco, and it is of the Jewish origin. It is zalouk. So let us make zalouk together.
Right. So once we get to La Maison Arabe, of course, we are welcomed by our Dada, Lalla Habiba, who is going to be helping us and demonstrating how to prepare these lovely dishes. So the first dish, the first salad that we're going to prepare is called zalouk. Zalouk, it's eggplant, aubergines. So we proceed in preparing the aubergine or the eggplant by cutting the two tops and also zebra, like a zebra crossing. So you do one and miss the other, so that becomes almost like a zebra. Then you're going to slice and dice on the same time into smaller cubes. So as you can see, once we dice them, we put it in the pan. That's one aubergine, and that's going to serve 2 people. So you put the gas on high. Then the next thing is olive oil as well as sunflower oil, ordinary cooking oil. It's mixed half-half. They will get it mixed in the bottle so that they work with it all the time. But if you've got 2 separate ones, put a spoon of that and a spoon of the other one. That's the mix. So she will put 2 spoons of the 2 oils. And then with a spatula, so you start turning it around, tossing it on high heat, as you can see. So depending on which mode of cooking that you are using, whether it is induction, gas or electric, all the time it should be on high. So we start hearing the sizzling noise. Wow, that's a lovely noise that is. The next thing is take a couple of cloves of garlic and you really mince them. And the way to do it is cut them really small, then you put a little bit of salt on the top and you rub it with it. It becomes almost like a paste. Okay, the smell of garlic really starts to come out with the olive oil and the sizzling noise. The next thing is take 1 tomato that we've got to peel and slice and dice also, and it's going to go into the mixture. Lalla Habiba, she's left the whole the tomato with the seeds in, because we don't put any water in this dish, so the water will come off the tomato. Okay, so as we dicing it really fine, so it's going to go in the pan with the eggplant and the garlic and the oil, and we start hearing this lovely noise of the sizzling, and that creates really like beautiful smell in the kitchen. So a little bit of parsley that goes in order to add a bit of color. Then the spices will start going in. The half a teaspoon of salt. It's optional also, so if you don't want it to be salty, so don't put any salt in it. So, but you can do. That's lovely. And about a teaspoon of cumin. And the same of paprika, sweet paprika. And the paprika here in Morocco, while we're preparing it, we tend to put a lot of olive oil. That's why the paprika here in Morocco tastes differently than the one that you get back home. While you're here, try and get yourself some of the paprika will be hooked on it. It adds a lot of flavor to a lot of the dishes. If you like it hot all the time, put a little bit. But if you've got children really like in the family sharing the same meal, so it is optional. That can be served separate and can be added to the dish at a later time. And in less than 15 minutes, here we are. We've got a beautiful starter. So a lot of these dishes, we've inherited them from the time when we had a very large Jewish community. And for the Shabbat, they used to prepare a lot of these dishes the night before. So because they won't be cooking on Saturday, so therefore everything was done before. The Moroccan Muslim community have inherited a lot of these dishes from our Jewish neighbors and Jewish friends. Of course, the other thing that Dada adds is just a little bit of vinegar that goes into the dish. And that gives it really that crunch. Look at that beautiful color. You see back home, if you ever prepare vol au vent, for example, you can just use that as a topping. They go out beautifully with a bit of bechamel sauce, and that goes really like inside. It makes a beautiful starter. Now we're proceeding to serve in the dish the end product that Lalla Habiba made for us. And when we say the word Lalla added to her name, Lalla Habiba, this is really like as a sign of respect of a woman that we respect and admire highly. Et voila! Almost like a painting. Again, like we say with the tea, we say bisaha, to your health.
Oh, thank you, Lalla Habiba, for this delicious dish. I can't wait to try it. But now let's move, because as they say, after a good meal, what better than a nice stroll through beautiful gardens? So let's move to the Majorelle Gardens, and let's take the same paths of the many stars, designers, and many famous people. Let's cherish these gardens that Yves Saint Laurent himself loved and chose as his best retreat in Marrakesh. Let's discover it.
Right. So.
We are inside the Majorelle Gardens, one of the main attractions in the city and one of the most beautiful gardens in all North Africa. It is marked by its diversity. It contains plants and trees from all the 5 continents. This garden was planted by a great French painter, Jacques Majorelle, who during his youth suffered from a lot of sicknesses, especially tuberculosis. And this is how he was advised to go to live in a dry climate, and he couldn't find better than the climate of Marrakesh. So he was attracted by the city, and he decided to build a villa in the middle of these gardens that he started to plant. As a great traveler, whenever he traveled, he came up with different varieties of trees and plants, ranging from cacti to the Asian bamboo that you see all over the place. So he used to paint quite a lot. And in 1947, he decided to open the garden for the public. And when he died in 1962, he legated the gardens to the municipality of Marrakesh on condition to leave it open for the public. And after a few years, the municipality didn't have sufficient money, so they decided to sell it to someone who can take care of it. And that is how Yves Saint Laurent bought the gardens and started to take great care of this safe haven for many varieties of birds and plants. So Yves Saint Laurent made a lot of efforts to keep it in a good shape, and he used to love it, and he stayed in part of the garden with his partner till he died in 2008. So this is the villa that Jacques Majorel, the painter, built to practice his paintings, and that he chose to paint from the outside with this electric and vivid blue that would look very strange and contrasting to all the red ochre that you see all over the city. And this section of the villa is very interesting because that is where most of the top models made photos, like ranging from Cindy Crawford to Farah Fawcett, Romy Schneider, among others.
Okay, well, we hope that you've enjoyed everything that you saw of Marrakesh, and we're looking forward to seeing you here in the city. Meanwhile, if anyone has any question about Morocco or about Marrakesh, please, both myself and Mukhtar, we are here to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this beautiful tour. We actually do have a few questions, if you could help us out. So one of the questions was, how many Jews were there in Morocco before the emigration in the 1960s and 70s? And how many are left there now?
The Jewish number is estimated between 250,000 to up to 300,000. So the immigration started earlier than what we commonly know, because it started since the end of the 19th century, mainly to Europe, and very few that were connected mainly to a certain very typical religious places. The Kabbalistic Jews from Morocco used to also go and try to spend the rest of their life in the Holy Land, especially in Jerusalem or in Sfad. After the creation of Israel, so more than half of the Jews left, made the Aliyah, and later on we had other immigrations. So little by little, Morocco was emptied of his Jewish population, and nowadays we have less than 2,500 Jews still living in the country. Most of them live in Casablanca, because that is where a real Jewish life is still possible, with 5 schools, 18 active synagogues, kosher butchers, and many other things like Jewish clubs and kosher restaurants.
So there is still a sizable community, especially in Casablanca. Do you think that there's any feelings of anti-Semitism to the Jews in that area or any place else in the country?
Not really, because if you visit Casablanca, you will see that the Jews that still live there live in scattered areas that are shared, that have been shared by both Muslims and Jews. And one of the most interesting aspects is when you come in the aftermath of Pesach, of Passover, when you will see a special ceremony that started in Morocco, the Mimona ceremony, which is the day after the Passover, where Moroccan Muslims join in the festivities of the Moroccan Jews by giving them the first leavened bread and also flowers, and wishing them a happy feast. So that is very unique and very special in Morocco.
That sounds like a beautiful custom. I wish that it would spread to other places in the world. So then it seems like the Jews in that area are very assimilated. So they wouldn't dress differently, or do they wear kippot?
Most of the time, the Jews would not like to wear the kippots outside. It is mainly to preserve their intimacy, so there is nothing against it. and most of them are the category of Jews that we call the conservative Orthodox. This is how they are well assimilated and highly respected. And if you saw in this video with Mr. Ohayun in the visit of the Mellah, we saw Mr. Ohayun who has his store nowadays in the middle of the Muslims, because there are only very few Jews, less than 100 living in Marrakesh. So they live peacefully inside that area. We have seen the family of Haliwa that live in that house in the middle of Muslims and surrounded by Muslims, and they are highly respected and loved by all that community that surrounds them.
So somebody has asked in the chat about Fez. Can you share with us a little bit about that?
Fez is really a very interesting Jewish city. The Jewish quarter of Fez, or what we call here in Morocco the Mellah, was actually the first Jewish quarter, or the first Mellah built in Morocco. And that goes back to the 14th century when the king decided to gather the Jews next to his palace. So it is located in a very beautiful area. So the Mellah of Fez, as well as the one in Marrakesh, can never be equated to the European ghettos, because all the time we find the Jewish quarters closely related to the royal palace. So both of them are built next to the royal palaces of both Fez and Marrakesh. Fez has been known or famous for the Jews because it was the city where we had the oldest university in the world, and that is how that university welcomed during the 12th century one of the most interesting figures in Judaism in the West, and that was the Rambam, Moses, who decided to stay in Fez for 3 years after the persecution that his family met in Spain. Fez is also referred to many times as the Jerusalem of the West, because it has very active cultural and philosophical activity, but very famous Jewish philosophers and thinkers, ranging from Yitzhak al-Fasi in the 11th century to Sa'di Agon, to the Rambam himself when he stayed there for 3 years, until Yehuda ben Attar, and it is also famous for its beautiful cemetery that has many tombs of a lot of venerated rabbis, and also a very interesting tomb of a lady martyr that is considered by the Jews as a tzadika, a holy person, because she sacrificed herself to keep her faith. So her story is very famous, and nowadays people visit her shrine, not only from Morocco, but from all over the world, because especially the Moroccan Jews are very superstitious, and they believe that visiting this tomb of this lady can help them to get children, or can help ladies looking desperately for a husband. So Fez is still a very interesting city that draws a lot of interest, especially from the side of the Jews, with 2 synagogues that were restored recently thanks to the help of UNESCO, the Slat Ben Danan, a famous family, and Slat al-Fasiyin. So a lot of things to see in Fez, as well as just like what we discovered together in the Mellah of Marrakesh.
And how far is the trip between these different areas? Like if you wanted to visit all of them, Casablanca, Marrakesh, Fez, how much time would you need to spend in the country?
Preferably you need almost 12 days. to cover all this, especially for people who are Shabbat Shomer, because they would need a stop. And for that, there is a very extremely nice experience, which is experiencing the Shabbat with a Jewish family. Like Mr. Isaac Ohayun that we saw, the Chazan of the synagogue of Marrakesh, he welcomes people to his house, and his wife is one of the best cooks in town. So that is a very nice experience. And in this tour, you can also visit other beautiful sites of Morocco, both for the Jewish legacy and also for the beauty of architecture, like Chefchaouen, the Blue City, Essaouira, another Jewish town on the coast, Casablanca, Rabat, and many other sites. There are 9 cities and towns and in Morocco that were included in the list of UNESCO as World Heritage of Humanity, and that are worth visiting. And you can cover that, as I said, between 7 to 13 days, depending on how much time you can afford.
I have another question here about asking about how the king protected the Jewish population during World War II.
Well, that is a very interesting experience with the late King Mohammed V. And we have a lot of stories that are told by historians about this protection, because the Vichy government started to implement what they call the Jewish law in France. And the Jewish law has several steps. So they came to Morocco and started with the first step, which consists of the census of all the Jews and their property. And then when they wanted to go to step 2, they came to the king and told him that they brought thousands of Jewish stars, yellow stars, the famous yellow stars that they forced the Jews to wear in France. So they wanted to do the same thing, and they told the king about that. So King Mohammed V bravely told them that he would oppose any measure of discrimination, and told them, if you insist and if you want anybody to wear a distinctive sign, so bring me 50 more stars for me and for the members of my family. The king, according to historians, also humiliated the Vichy officials during his birthday party, when he invited the Jewish rabbis from all over Morocco and made them sit on the same table with the Vichy officials. And that was a message that for him, all the citizens are alike. And thanks to that protection, no Jew from Morocco, according to many historians, went to any concentration camp, while in the nearby countries, Algeria and Tunisia, that were both colonized by the French, just like Morocco, historians talk about a number of 19,000 Jews that left their life when they were deported to the Auschwitz and other concentration camps.
The king of Morocco, the present king of Morocco, Mohammed VI, is also following on the footsteps of both his grandfather, Mohammed V, as well as Hassan II. Hassan II also a great protector of the Jewish faith in Morocco and of the Jews in Morocco in general. One day he was interviewed and he was asked, if the Jews are enjoying their life in Morocco so much, why are some of them leaving? His answer was, every time a Moroccan Jew leaves the country, Morocco gains another ambassador.
Well, we are grateful. We are grateful to you for your hospitality to the Jews now and in the past. I want to thank you so much, Mr. Z and Mukhtar, for your insight and expertise. And I want to thank everyone for joining us this morning. We hope you've all enjoyed your journey to Morocco. Please watch your email for additional meaningful ways to connect with our Federation and our Jewish community during these unprecedented times. including how to make a real difference for those who need us by contributing to our annual campaign. Together with our caring community, we thrive. Stay safe and be well.